A woman once came to a Rav in desperation. Rabbi, there's no shalom bayis in my home, and I know that I am at fault. I've mistreated my husband. I've made his life a misery. And she's crying to the Rav, please, please, all I want is that there should be shalom bayis in my home. Give me some advice. Tell me, what is it that I can do that I can restore peace and harmony in my home? And the Rav says, let me give you some advice. Tomorrow, before your husband comes home from work, I want you to scrub the house clean. Everything should be sparkling and look beautiful. Prepare a delicious and sumptuous meal. Prepare your husband's favorite foods. Go out and buy a beautiful present and wrap it up nicely and write a warm note. Wear your big day Shabbos. Do everything to create an atmosphere so that when he comes into the house, he will see how you're trying to find favor in his eyes and how you want to win him back and bring shalom and peace back into the home. So she goes home and she spends the whole day scrubbing and cleaning. She drags out all her old cookbooks when she was a kala, and she prepares a delicious meal. She goes out and she buys a magnificent, expensive present, and she wraps it in a beautiful wrapping, and she writes a nice note. And she waits expectantly. She's anticipating her husband coming home and how wonderful it's going to be to have shalom bayis once again. Her husband walks into the house. He looks around the room. He looks at the table set with Shabbos finery, with the silver cutlery, and he looks at the beautiful present on the table, and he picks up the present and he throws it on the floor. He takes the plate of food and he throws it across the room, and he starts yelling at his wife, how dare you? What are you trying to do? You're trying to buy me with presents. His voice is dripping with hatred, with disgust, and he says to, don't you understand? It's you I'm sick of. I find you repulsive. I don't want to have any part of you. Leave me alone already. You've ruined my life. I don't want to know you anymore. Can we feel the poor woman's humiliation? Can we imagine her broken heart? And in agony and desperation, she runs back to the Rav and she's crying, tell me, help me. Listen what happened. He doesn't want to know me. It's me that he hates. There's nothing I can do to be pleasing to him. Tell me. What is it? Maybe you know. What is it that's bothering him? What is it that I can do to once again find favor in his eyes? Can we imagine such a pain? You know, in Tanakh, there are many, many terrifying passages. But one of the most difficult prokim in Tanakh, one of the most scathing and awful parashas that we have to listen to, that it's so hard for us to bear, is the Haftarah that we read in Shabbos Chazoin in the week before Tisha B'Av. We gather together, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu talks to us and he says, Shimu dvar Hashem kitzineis doim, hazinu toiras Elokeinu am hamoiro. We gather together, we want to find favor, we want to restore shalom bayis between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. And we decide, we prepare a magnificent korban, an expensive sacrifice to appease the Rabbeinu Shalom, to find favor in his eyes. But what does he say to us? He looks at our korban and he says, Lo moli roiv zivcheichem yoimar Hashem. What do I need all your karbonos, all your sacrifices? Sovati oilois elim v'chelev miriyim. I've had enough. I'm fed up of all your karbonos. Damporum ukvosim v'atudim loy chafotzti. I'm not interested. Klal Yisrael will gather together. Families, beautiful, pure families, to go up to be Oile Regel, to make the pilgrimage to Yerushalayim. And they'll prepare, and they'll organize caravans. They'll get their little children, Kol Misha Yochol Lalos Beraglov, as the Mishnah tells us. Anyone who can walk on his feet, join together to go up to Yerushalayim. with such simcha, with such joy, the singing and dancing all the way, v'tarli beinul of the Chabi Emes. And we come up to Yerushalayim, and the Rabbi Shalom says to us, Ki savoyu leirois ponai, you'll come to see my face. Mi bikesh zois miyetchem remois chatzeiroi, who asked you to come and sully my courtyard. Loi soisifu havi min chashov. Don't bring me any more of your empty meal offerings. Your incense is an abomination to me. We'll prepare beautiful Yomim Tovim, Shabbosos. We'll go out and purchase a lulav and an esrig. We'll build a beautiful sukkah. We'll be mahader to get the most mehudadik and wonderful matzahs. And we'll prepare a magnificent Seder table together in order to bring Shalom Bayis. And what does the Rabbi Shalom say? Chodshechem u'moyadeichem sono nafshi. Your Yomim Tovim, I despise them. Oh, you olai lo toirach, they're only a burden to me. Nilesi nisoi, I cannot bear to carry them. I'm weary of carrying you. U'ephorischem kapeichem. You'll stretch out your arms to me in tefillah. You'll pray to me. Alim einai mikem. I will turn my eyes away from you. Gam ki sarbu tefillah eineni shoymeya. You will daven excessively to me, but I will not hear yedeichem domim oleyu. How can we bear such words? How are we supposed to react when we're told, go away? I don't want you. I'm not interested in you. So we run back crying and we say, so tell us, what is it? What is it that you want from us? What can we do so that once again we should live in peace and harmony together? And the Rabbi Shalom tells us, Rachachsu hizaku, cleanse yourself, purify yourselves. Hosiru royam aleichem, chidlu horeya, cease to do ra. Limdu heitev, teach yourselves goodness. Change yourselves. I don't want presents. I don't want bribes. I don't want lip service. I want real change. I want to see a different person. So what is it that he wants? We need to know. What's bothering him? Why is it that we're so desperate? Why can't we seem to find favor in his eyes? Chazal tell us there are Gimel Averes Chamuros, 3 cardinal sins: Gilui Araya, Shvichas Dam, and Avodah Zarah, immorality, murder, and idolatry. The Lashon Hara Magdil Avonos Keneged Kulam, Chazal say, and the Chet of Lashon Hara is magnified. It's greater than all of the 3 Gimel Averes Chamuros. And the Svarim Akdoshim tell us, the Arizal, the Chidah, many of the great Tzaddikim explained that just like there are Gimel Averes Chamuros and 1 Avera of Lashon Hara that's Magdil Avonos Keneged Kulon, so too we find there are Dalit Golios, there are 4 exiles. The first 3 were Golus Bovel, Golus Modai, and Golus Yavon. And the 4th Golus, the Golus that we are in now, is Golus Edom. And the first 3 exiles correspond to the Gimel Averes Chamuros. But Golus Edom, the worst, the most torturous of all of the Golios, the one that's so long and so bitter and combines all the elements of the previous exiles, that Golus, our Golus, is Keneged the Chet of Lashon Hara. And until we rectify the Chet of Lashon Hara, we are going to cause Arichas HaGolus. The Maral in Sefer Nesivas Olam writes, Kol Arichas HaGolus, all of the lengthiness of the exile, Ein roili hitolois ela bechet hazeh shel Lashon Hara. We can only blame it on this sin, the sin of Lashon Hara. Rabbi Fall Mei Hamburg, the great Goyin and Tzaddik, wrote in a drasha, Miyoim beroi odam al oretz, from the day that human being was created until this day, all that has befallen us, chatas haloshoin hoya ba'ichrenu. All of our tzoros, the cause was Lashon Hara. It is at the front, pre-kol chatos. Mimenu yavoyu, mimenu yoshuvun, kol hatlois asher shavru es ami. From this chet comes and goes all of the trials and tribulations, all of the tragedies that have broken our nation. So we are told, Tzaddikim told us, Chazal told us, what it is the Rabbeinu Shalom wants from us, why he's so angry. But it's difficult to understand. Why is it so important? Lashon Hara, to many of us it may seem so trivial. Lashon Hara may not be a very refined way to act, to be a gossip, to speak slanderously, but this should be the cause of the Golus. How do we understand that Reb Chaim Berlin wrote a letter to Rabbi Mishkovsky, and it's reprinted in the Akdama to the Sefer Koich V'Yor, and it's dated Yud Aleph of 2 days after Tisha B'Av, where he describes the Levaya of Reb Itzela Petterberger, where there was a whole question of whether to give a hesped, and he writes that he gave a hesped, and on Erev Shabbos night, Leil Shabbos, Reb Itzela came to me in a dream, and he described the Oinshim, the Dinim Shamayim, how the Din in Shamayim is emes, is truth, it's perfect truth. And he said, Makpidim bi Yoseh, they are exceedingly stringent on the Chatoi Haloshoin, sins of the mouth. Chet Haloshoin Noiro Me'oid. What is it? Why is it so chomer? What makes it such an integral part of the Arichas HaGolus? First, we have to examine the power of speech. To anybody who observes the world, it's immediately obvious that we are the only ones, human beings are the only ones who have the ability to express ourselves. We are a medaber. A parrot is not a medaber. He can say words, but he cannot express any thoughts. No one shares this capacity with us. Now, when did it happen? When did we become medabrim? When did we get the ability to speak? When did we acquire this faculty that's uniquely human? The pasuk tells us, "Vayipach ba'apov nishmas chayim vayia adam lenefesh chayo." HaKadosh Baruch Hu blew a living soul into Adam, and he became a nefesh chaya. The Targum translates lenefesh chaya leruach memalalo, a speaking spirit. At the moment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu reached into the worlds within worlds, each one the root and the soul of the world before it, and he went deeper and deeper into the Kedusha Soyelamois until he reached the Kisei HaKavod, and from there he extracted the neshama. There he took out the soul and he blew it into us. At that moment, the person became a speaking spirit. At the moment that the Chelek Elokai Mimal was infused into us, the moment the neshama entered our being, together with that we got the power of speech. As the Maral explains, that when guf and neshama, when body and spirit combine, the neshama has to manifest itself. And it comes out through the koyach hadibur, the eloikus, the godliness that's within us, that's expressed in dibur. That is the koyach hayitzira. The Rabbeinu Shalom is the only creator, the only yotzer, and he created the world. Ba'asora ma'amora is nivra olam. He created it with koyach hadibu, with 10 utterances. And when we became speech beings, we share, as the Nefesh HaChaim writes, we too become yotzrim, and we too are enabled to create worlds, or chalila, to destroy worlds. It's the chelek elokah mimal that's within us. That is the koyach hadibur. And that is what sets us above all of creation. So if we abuse this koyach, if we misuse this ability, we've debased our very humanity. It's a perversion of our very essence. Ein koichon shel Yisrael elo bepeh. The power of Yisrael is only with dibur, is only with peh. All of us need so many things. All of us need siyata d'shmaya. Some with parnasa. Others need refuas, the Eber soll helfen. Others need shidduchim, nachas. And ein koichen shall Yisrael ela b'peh. It's in our power to daven and to be mo'ire rachmei shamayim. An animal cannot daven. One who doesn't have the chush hadibur cannot evoke divine assistance to help him with his needs. And yet the Chofetz Chaim says that he asked the question, so why we daven so hard for things that we need so desperately, and yet we're not answered? And the Chofetz Chaim answers because we have to daven with the klei adibur, with our mouths. And if we poison our mouths with lashon hara, if we misuse our klei adibur and they become faulty, our tefillos are not heard. Imagine if there's a family that possesses a priceless piece of jewelry, a family heirloom. And there's a swindler who wants to get hold of it, but they would never sell it. It's worth millions of dollars. And he waits for one day when the parents are away. There's a little boy at home, and he comes knocking on the door, and he starts a conversation with the child, and he says, hey, look at that old ring and that old box there. You know what? I'd give you $100 for it. And the boy's eyes light up, $100 for that old thing. And he takes it, and he's so excited. And his mother comes up and says, look what I got. I got $100. She says, where did you get it from? That piece of junk that was sitting there, I gave that away, and I got $100 for it. And the mother, what? That was our family heirloom. That was priceless. You gave it away. You were swindled. The Satan comes to us and he tries to swindle us out of our most priceless possession. Our elikus, our koyach hadibur. He tells us it's no big deal. We could own the world with this koyach. Shoymar it would protect us from everything. And what do? We sell it. For what? Ma Yisrael lebal al-loshen, as the pasuk says. There's no gain, not even a penny, nothing. And we give away our chush hadibur, our elikus. We lose the chush hadibur through lashon hara. We lose our humanity. We lose our koyach hatfilah. How does that happen? Why is lashon hara such an abuse of the koyach hadibur? If we would analyze the mechanics of a piece of lashon hara, we would find something very revealing. Many years ago, as a child, I was on a bus on my way to yeshiva. There was a group of boys sitting on the bus, and one of the boys was ridiculing a certain respected balabas in the community, and he was a riot. He was imitating him. He was telling everyone how stupid the man was, how ugly he was, how foul he smelled, and how nobody likes him, although he thinks everybody likes him. And we were all laughing uproariously at this man's expense, and we were having a great time. Suddenly, one boy a few seats ahead of us gets up and turns around to us, and there's tears streaming down his face, and he says, I want you to know the man that you're talking about is my father. And he ran off the bus crying. We can't even begin to imagine his pain, his anguish. How many times through the years he must have relived this scene in his imagination. And again felt the stabbing pain. But how did we feel? Our disgrace, our sense of shame. We were so disgusted with ourselves. We were caught doing something dirty. We felt ashamed to be alive. Now imagine if the boy who had spoken, who had so defamed this first boy's father, had ran off the bus, chased down the other, and says, please, I want to talk to you for 1 minute. And he would say, no, leave me alone. Don't apologize. I don't want to know you. I saw what you are. I know what you are. I'm not interested in what you are. He says, no, I just want to talk to you for 1 moment. He says, what is it? He would say, I just need a very big favor from you. Would you maybe do a great favor for me? Surely he would gag in disgust. After what you've done to me? You want me to do you a favor? Let us think for a moment. When we talk Lashon Hara, the Rabbi Shalom, who's the father of the person we're talking about, who loves that child with a love that's greater than any love we can even begin to imagine. is listening how we are maligning and defaming his precious child, and no one's defending him, no one's seeing the good in him. We could imagine the Rabbi Shalom's anguish, Kaviyachal, the tears streaming down in pain for his child. And then we want to go, stand Shmoyne Esrei, Rabbi Shalom refueinu, Rabbi Shalom send me parnasa, Rabbi Shalom look after me. Is it any wonder that the pasuk says, "Ufarizchem kapeichem alim einai mikem"? That the Chofetz Chaim, when he describes how a person loses koyach hatfilah, he says the medaba lashon hara is nis of ma'oid be'einei Hashem. He's an abomination in the eyes of Hashem. Ve'eino shemei tfilasoi. Is it any wonder he doesn't want to share a home with us? He doesn't want to share a Beis Hamikdash with us? It's a painful episode, but it's very revealing. If we would just think for a moment. Here we were a group of boys, and what we were doing with great joy, with a lot of confidence, and plenty of arrogance too. And we were having a great time doing it. But only because we weren't aware there was somebody listening. The moment we realized somebody was listening, we became so despicable. And the act that we did became so repulsive. And we never would have done it. Here we are acting out joyfully something that if the conditions would be just one bit different, the person would be, and we would never stoop so low. And therein lies the ugliness of Lashon Hara. It's treachery. It's a betrayal. If we're in the office standing around the water cooler, talking about a coworker or perhaps about the boss, laughing at him, pointing out his failings, and then he walks by and we give a big smile and a big shalom aleichem and a big pat on the back. We're being treacherous. In every society, treason is a capital crime. A traitor hangs. Treason is in a league of its own. It's considered more heinous than murder. Why is it? Why is it that everyone agrees that a traitor has to hang? The difference is that a traitor, we don't punish him just for the moment that he handed over the secrets to the enemy. It's everything that he did. He's living together with us. He's acting as if he was our friend. He didn't just commit a crime. He is a crime. He doesn't hang for what he did. He hangs for what he is. He is a traitor. He's a living lie. And when we were so embarrassed, we weren't embarrassed over what we did. We were embarrassed because we were exposed as being treacherous. But Lashon Hara is a betrayal on many levels. It's a betrayal of our friends, Bein Adam leChaveroi. It's a betrayal of the Rabbi Shalom Hashem, who gave us the wondrous gift of speech, and we use that gift to aggrieve his beloved children. And it's a betrayal to Klal Yisrael. Because the Chofetz Chaim writes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot see bad. Ein roya ovel b'Yisrael. He doesn't see chet. Only through the power of the Satan, who's the Mekatreg, when the accuser comes and he brings before the Rabbeinu Shalom the Averos and the sins of Klal Yisrael, that sets the process of Einish and punishment, that sets the gears going. And the Satan cannot begin to speak until he is empowered by the energy of Lashon Hara. And the Chofetz Chaim brings the Lashon HaMedrash. Mikol tzoros habois aleichem ani yochel atzilchem. I can save you from all your tzoros. B'tnai, as long as the Satan doesn't stand up to accuse you. Ubal loshen hora hu anoisen loy koyach lekatreg. Those who speak Lashon Hara with impunity, they are the ones who energize the Satan and give him the information to bring before the Kisei HaKavod and bring the Midas Hadin. As the Chofetz Chaim writes, Lashon Hara awakens the great Mekatreg, and this causes miso, v'hereg, v'avadon, v'cherev, all sorts of terrible punishment. Kama b'nei Adam yordu minichseim al yodei. How many people lost their panosus through this? V'kama mesu al yodei. How many died through this aveira? Ubevadai lo yenuke. And the person who's guilty of causing this will not be spared his oynish. And Rab Tzadok HaKohen writes that every malach, every angel revealed his secret, his soid to Moshe Rabbeinu. And the malach HaMoves, the angel of death, came to Moshe and he said, my soid is Lashon Hara. So it's a betrayal of our nation. And most of all, it's a betrayal of ourselves. Do we really want to be this way? We're not traitors. We're essentially repulsed by treachery. That's not our nature. Yet the Satan tricks us to undermine our own value systems so that we do things that we ourselves find reprehensible, we don't even realize. And we betray ourselves in a very damaging way too. And it's frightening to think about it. What is Lashon Hara? Dibur, the Svarim say, is the kulmis halev, the pen of the heart. There's good parts of our heart, and there's bad parts. Leiv v'leiv yidaberu. What does the word Lashon Hara mean? What's the hey? Lashon Hara. Lashon Ra. The hey with the komets in this instance is possessive, like we say, Rishus Harabim, the domain that belongs to the Rabbim. So too, there's Lashon, there's language, Hora. There's a language of the French, there's the language of the English, and there's the language of the Tzad Hora. How does Ra speak? The Ra that's within us. Our bad midas, our aveiros, our pagomim, all of that Lev also wants to speak. And that comes out, that manifests itself through Lashon Hora. And every time we speak Lashon Hara, we're revealing that. Instead of hiding that awful odor that's hidden inside, we reveal ourselves. Oh, so you speak French too. You also know how to speak that language. And that's why when somebody talks Lashon Hara, it's immediate that he goes down so much in the eyes of the listener. We all experienced it. When someone tells us a piece of Lashon Hara, automatically we lose respect for that person because we've witnessed his midas rois. That's what Shabina Rav once said, that he had no nesoyin in speaking Lashon Hara because his father once told him, when you're talking about somebody else, you're talking more about yourself than anything else. What is talking? It's the Chelek Hara, as the Baal Shem wrote, that every aveira that a person does ultimately has to come out on the peh. So we're actually really truly betraying ourselves. We're giving out the part of ourselves, we're exposing the part of ourselves that would rather remain hidden. And we give away our most precious koiches. Rav Emanuel Feldman of Atlanta, Georgia, relates a story how he once had to visit one of his congregants, a woman who was in the hospital, who had to have an operation. She had a terrible disease, and they had to operate on her to remove her larynx, her voice box, and she would never be able to speak again. And he went to visit her in her hospital room, and she was surrounded by her family and children. And she was trying to be upbeat, and everybody was speaking words of chizuk, and then they all left, and he was left with her alone, and she burst out into tears, says, Rabbi, I'm speaking to you, these are the last words I'm ever going to speak in my life. I cannot bear it. I'd rather not live. What kind of a life will this be if I'll never be able to speak? And he says, I tried to be mechazik, I tried to talk to her, to daven. And then I said, let's say together Shema Yisrael. Said, he had taught her Lashon Kodesh. He was the one who taught her how to read Lashon Kodesh. He said the first tefillah she ever uttered in Lashon Kodesh was Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And now these were to be the last words she would ever say on this world. And she said Shema. And he says, and I went outside to my car and I burst into tears and I couldn't stop weeping. Could you imagine somebody knows this is the last words he'll ever utter? And the Chofetz Chaim writes that when somebody speaks Lashon Hara, he comes to the Olam HaNitzchi and his Klei HaDibur, his speech is denied him. He cannot speak L'netzach Nitzochim. And all there is to do in Olam HaNitzchi is to speak, to learn Torah, to sing Shir v'Shbachas to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And a person takes those Klei HaDibur and destroys them. Who would want to do that to themselves? How the Satan fools us. He turns us into self-destroyers. Shoimer piv u'leshoinoi shoimer mitzorois nafshoi. This is the Eitzah. If a person controls his speech, he saves his soul from distress and from all tzaras. And it's not that difficult. People all over the world are doing it, and they're doing it successfully and joyfully. And they're seeing wondrous results. Lives have changed. Families have been uplifted. This week, someone called to the offices of the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation. A couple who didn't have children for years undertook to follow the Luach of Shmiras HaLashon Yomi that was established by the Manchester Yeshiva Rav Segal Zatzal. And after 1 week of learning Shmiras HaLashon, there was good news. And the baby was born 7 weeks early, which is unusual. And then they realized that it was born on the Manchester Yeshiva's yard site. Koyach of Shmiras HaLashon. We may think it's difficult, but that's the Satan distorting the truth. But the Medrash writes, if one wants to be Zoichet to Olam Habo, Bizul, cheaply, not to pay the heavy price, Nitzor L'shoinoi Meira. Because he's shoymem mitzoras nafsho, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is maftiach, the Medrash says, that Yamoid Hashem liyaminoi, Hashem will stand at his right side, lahatziloi mikol tzoros, to save him from all tzoros. All it takes is a little bit of awareness, to think. And on a day like Tisha B'Av, to think deeply. And maybe suggest two things. If we look in the Svarim, we know there's Lashon Hara, and then there's what's called a Baal Lashon Hara, Rachmana litzlan. Somebody who has a mouth that's hefker, who speaks Lashon Hara brazenly, without any thought of the consequences. And a Baal Lashon Hara, if you look in the Svarim, is Ein Roya Pnei Hashchina. He's in very serious trouble. Many of us who are careful about how we speak, but sometimes there's someone in our lives who for some reason we feel there's immunity when we speak Lashon Hara about that person. And towards that person we become a Baal Lashon Hara. It could be a boss, it could be a coworker, could be an in-law, could be a competitor in business who's eating your heart out for years and every day, look what he did, you don't stop talking about him. Or it could be somebody who's very successful and very wealthy, and the kinna, the jealousy eats up at us, and we're always speculating about how he perhaps earned his money dishonestly, or talking about it. in that way to validate our own kinna, or someone who may have caused us a lot of pain, and we have that feeling, that need for revenge, for nekama, and every time we speak with such poison. If right now, anyone who knows of such a person in his life would concentrate on the image of that person, and concentrate intensely, and think of that image, because that image may chas v'shalom be the image that is going to stand in the way in the doors of Gan Eden and not let us in, because he's going to say, you are a Baal Lashon Hara. And then he'll really have dealt us the fatal blow, the fatal and final blow. Let us today accept upon ourselves that if there is such a person in our lives, we will not speak about him at all. Bein toif, bein ra. I am going to drop the subject no matter how difficult it is. But here it's not going to soy. Here it's not easy. There may be somebody you've been trying to prove for so long how awful he is, and now you've really got the goods. You heard what happened about him, and we're burning inside to give it out, to prove our point. Don't know where we're going to go. How am I going to control myself from repeating this? And a person said, you know what? Okay, I'll push it off for 2 hours, but I know in 2 hours I'm going to have to say it, and that way you can bear it. And I hope maybe in the 2 hours I'll be lucky enough that someone else will go and say it, and the news will get out, and I won't have to be over on Lashon Hara. Let us decide that we are going to take that and swallow it forever, for eternity. And the midah keneged midah will be that we'll be zoiche to koyach hadibur for eternity. Imagine for a moment that woman was being operated to remove her klei hadibur. Imagine how desperate and how brokenhearted she was, knowing she'll never speak again. Imagine if the doctor would have come over to her just before the operation and said, listen, there's one way we can save your speech. If you undertake never again for the rest of your life to speak a word of Lashon Hara, we'll be able to save your klei hadibur and you'll be able to speak. Imagine how she would jump at the opportunity. And not just jump at the opportunity, but imagine how joyfully she would be mekayem it, how every time she had the opportunity to speak Lashon Hara for the rest of her life, and she would control it, the inner glow, the wondrous feeling, the ecstasy of look what I'm doing, it would bring her such simcha. We can do the same. It can be a pleasure. Ma Yisrael lebal aloshoid means there's no gain. People who have taken this out of their lives don't feel they're missing anything. They feel they've been revived. They feel wonderful. They feel marvelous because they're not hiding anything. All it takes is an awareness and a little bit of self-examination. I'm told that as we speak these words, tens of thousands of people in over 200 communities worldwide are listening in. Imagine for a moment, Rabbi Isai, the Gedolei Ador issued a call for limud, for the learning of Sifrei Chofetz Chaim. And years ago, the Heilige Manchester Yeshiva instituted, he established a luach where one can learn 2 halachos a day, and thousands of people across the globe are doing it and being mekayem it. And the Chofetz Chaim writes, the only way to be a shomer pivul l'shoinoi is through learning the halachos, because we're naturally more inclined to keep a halacha that we've learned about. That's the nature of man. Imagine if today on Tisha B'Av, if at this moment 30,000 B'nai Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov were at this moment to turn to the Rabbi Shalom and say, Tate Zisa in Himmel, On the day that you took everything away from us, on the day you took our Beis HaMikdash, you took our pride, our glory, our land, we are going to give you something so special. We are going to give you such a present from your children. All of us together will accept upon ourselves, b'li neder, to learn the Shtei Halachos, the Shmiras Haloshen Yoimi. Imagine if every one of us were to accept upon himself, b'li neder, to go out and convince 3 more people to join along in the Limud Yomi. Imagine if every Daf Yomi Shir would add on 5 minutes a day. That's about all it takes to learn Shmiras Haloshen Yomi. Could you imagine the storm that we'd create in Shamayim right now with such a Kabbalah? How the Malachim will be singing and dancing. They'd be running to the Heichel Mashiach and wake him up. It's time, look. Surely we'd create such a Oirus in Shamayim. And we'd reawaken the Kirvas Eloikim, the Shalom Bayis that we so desperately need. And on a day like Tisha B'Av, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is especially close to us. Because although the Navi told us, Lama li roiv zivcheichem yoimer Hashem, that was before the Churban. The Pasuk tells us by the Cheto Egel, Moshe Rabbeinu turned to the Rabbi Shalom and he says, Ono choto am azeh chato gidoilo. They've sinned a great sin. And the Mefarshim asked, if the Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to appease HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why would he say we sinned a great sin? You try to make it smaller. And one of the tzaddikim once said, a mashal, said, imagine there's a child running around on the roof of a building, and his father comes up and he sees him and he says, get down from there, I'm warning, I don't want to see you up there, it's dangerous. And the father comes back a few minutes later and he sees him up there again, so he goes and he gives him a patch. I warned you not to run around over here, it's dangerous. He goes back downstairs and suddenly a bunch of children run in and they tell him, your son fell off the roof, he's on the ground, he's bleeding, he's broken. And the father runs out, his son was lying there on the floor, and all the kids are thinking, wow, now he's really going to get it. If for just running around on the roof he got smacked, who knows what he's going to get now for falling down. And the father runs over and he lifts up the son, he hugs him and he kisses him, he tries to revive him, he says, what can I do for you? Please help me, call the doctors, anything I could do for my beloved son. And if the children will ask, what do you mean? Why isn't he getting punished? It's punished when he's up there, but when he's fallen down and he's broken, I am the father who's going to give him my love. Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Rebbeinu Shalom, now is not a time for patch. Oh no, choto mazeh chato gidoilo. They've sinned a great sin. They've fallen. Something terrible has happened. They've worshipped an Egel. Rebbeinu Shalom, now you have to be a father. Now you have to come to them and hold them and lift them up. And so the same Rebbeinu Shalom who said to us, Mi bikesh zois mi etchem remois chatzeroi. But on the day of the Churban, we look in the Medrash. At the time of the Churban, the Rebbeinu Shalom was crying and he said, Oili me'osisi, what have I done? Hishreisi shchinosi lamato b'shvil Yisrael. I've rested my Shechina on the earth because of Yisrael. V'yachshav shechotu chazati l'mekoymi arishoin. Ba'ois shobo metatrain v'nofal al ponov. The Malach, the angel Metatrin, fell before the Rebbeinu Shalom. He says, Rebbeinu Shalom, Aniyef Ka'al, cry, V'yata loy sivke. And the Rebbeinu Shalom said, if you do not let me cry, I'll go into a place, Shein l'choreshus likonei sham, and I'll cry there. And it says in the Pasuk, B'mistorim tivke nafshi. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, L'malachi Ashoreis, Boyu v'neilech, let us go, Ani v'atem, v'nireh b'beisi me'od Let us see what the enemy has done in my house. The Rabbi Shalom went. He was together with the Malachi Asharis with Yirmiyah Novi. The Kivan Shero HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Beis HaMikdash when he saw the Beis HaMikdash in flames. Omar bevadai zehu beisi v'zehu menuchasi. This is my house. This is my resting place. Shebo oivim v'asu boi kirtzoinam. Boi susho HaKadosh Baruch Hu boi chevi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was crying and he said, Oi li al beisi. Bonai heichanatem, my children, where are you? Kohanai heichanatem, my kohanim, where are you? Oi havai, my beloved ones, where are you? Mo eselochem, what can I do for you? Hisreisi bochem, I warned you so many times, Oloi chazartem b'tshuva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, L'Yirmiyah, Ani doim hayoim, I can be compared today. L'Adam shoyaloi ben Yechidi, one who had an only child. V'asa loi chuppah, u'meiz b'toi chuppasoi. Hoi v'yein l'cha cave, lo yolai v'lo yalbonai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is b'tzarosam lo yitzor. On this day, when we're sitting by Velos on the floor, He's crying for us. He's pouring out His love to us. Bonai, hey, Chanatem, Koyhanei Chanatem. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so close to us, Koroi Vashem L'nishberei Leiv. Let us reach out to Him. Let us extend ourselves to Him and say, now is the moment when we can have Shalom Bayis. Now is the moment we can find favor in His eyes once again. And if we were to reach out with true ahava to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And how do we show true ahava to the Rabbeinu Shalom? By showing true ahava to each and every single one of His children, of our beautiful, wonderful family of Klal Yisrael. Surely, this could be the last Tisha B'Av. This will bring Mashiach. The Eibishter zal helfen. We should be zoich HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be roya l'leiva. We should see our broken hearts. He would see how we want to change. He would see how we don't want to be the type of person that the Baal Lashon Hara is, how we really want to be together with Him and with all of His children. And then we will be zoiche to be as goyel tzedek b'mheira b'yameinu. Amen.